And now for my next number, I'd like to return to the
classic. Time.
Hey everyone, Alex back again. I'm back with my top 100 albums series that I've been doing on the channel. We're doing 20 through 11 in this video, so we're almost there. We're almost done. One more part and then we'll get to it. But of course this is 20 through to 11, meaning these are the 10 albums that just missed out of my top 10. But of course, if any of them could have been in my top 10, if I could have put them in my top 10, I would have, but a lot of them just missed out. So, these are the 10 that just missed out. So in saying that, I'm looking through and I can't help but think how bad I feel for these 10 albums, for them missing out on that spot. But like I've said previously, if you've missed any parts to this series, the playlist with all the parts is down in the description below. And also, it is just my opinion, so if you think an album should be higher up on the list, if you think an album should be lower on the list, or you think that an album should not be on this list at all, that's entirely your opinion. This is my opinion. I enjoyed watching these top 100 videos when they were going around originally. I still love seeing them every time a new one crops up. So if you have one that I haven't seen yet, leave a comment, let me know, and I'll check yours out as soon as possible. So with that said and done, let's get into my top 100 of all time, top 100 albums of all time, 20 through 11. So here we go. Coming in at 20, Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City. If it wasn't for this album and the Dr. Dre production behind it, I would not be into Kendrick Lamar, and he would not be one of my favorite he would not be my favorite modern rapper out there. You wouldn't. It's just not possible. You wouldn't be, and that's a no. I hope that's a known fact. You wouldn't be. You've got songs like Swimming Pool, Sing About Me. The Recipe is my favourite song on this album, but it's only on the bonus edition. You've got Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe, Backseat Freestyle, which is another great song, Money Trees, Poetic Justice, just a stellar album from front to back. He's even got a track on here with Mary J. Blige. That's how good he was. And that's only his first major label release. Yeah, because this is on Aftermath. It's on Dre's label. Compton-based rapper, so he's sort of had an influence from the streets and influence from NWA and other Compton-based rappers, and yeah, just an album that is a concept album. It tells the story of him living in the streets of Compton, and I can't help but think how incredible this album is because of what it does and the story it tells. And yeah, like I said, this album is the reason I listen to Kendrick Lamar so much, and I was going to put it in my top 10 but could not quite do it. So Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City comes in at number 20. At 19, this album, I kind of got this from my dad's taste, because obviously I've been my earliest influences are those around me, and then I went off and discovered music on my own, blah 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 blah. You guys know the stories. I'm sure we've all done it. I'm sure we've all had influences from our parents' tastes. But yeah, Depeche Mode Violator is number 19. The only Depeche Mode album on this list. My number one Depeche Mode album. The only Depeche Mode album I have in constant rotation. Because there's maybe one or two songs of all the others I like. I mean, I do like Black Celebration. I think that's a great album. I love Ultra. Again, that's another great album. But this one is the only one that I will happily listen to, and I can be in any mood to listen to this album. It doesn't matter if I'm in a synth pop mood or if I'm in an upbeat rocky mood. I'll put Depeche Mode's Violator on because it's that good of an album. Obviously, big songs: Personal Jesus, Enjoy the Silence, Policy of Truth. Just a great album. And they were still doing a synth pop sound that they were known for, but trying to keep up with modern trends. And I love this album because it's always been my favourite Depeche Mode album. Every time we went on a car journey with my dad, I'd say, hey, have you got Violator that you can put in the car? Yeah, okay. But yeah, Violator comes in at number 19. At 18, one more reggae album. And I'm sure, if I remember correctly, this could be the last reggae album on my list. My favourite reggae album of all time. Exodus by Bob Marley. Say what you will about Bob Marley and the Wailers. I know. It's controversial to like reggae and then say you like Bob Marley and the Wailers. But I can't help it. This album's had such an influence on me. Songs like the title track Exodus, Waiting in Vain, Jammin', fantastic song, Three Little Birds and One Love. Just a stellar album from front to back. And yeah, one that's always stuck with me, even from my youth. Because Three Little Birds and One Love were always played on the radio. It didn't matter what station you were on. Even on the pop station. You know, you had Three Little Birds and you had One Love. Of course, Jammin's probably my favourite song on here. And the reason I love Bob Marley more than I do outside of his hits is this album. And so Exodus had that influence on me, and I wish I could have put it in my top 10. But again, Bob Marley's a later influence, technically, because I listened to a couple of his songs, liked them, forgot about Bob Marley, and then rediscovered him a lot later. So it's one of them, but that's the only reason he's not in my top 10 is because it one that I did discover a bit later on. But if he had stuck with me throughout those early years, he probably would have been in my top 10 for sure. But yeah, Exodus by Bob Marley comes in at 18. 17. Now, I know this album's going to seem weird because this is a much later influence on me, but I'll show you and then I'll explain. Okay, it's Elton John by Elton John. This album I didn't discover till after watching Rocket Man with my at the time girlfriend, my now fiance. Your Song by him is our song. And so I tried to put it in my top 10. I couldn't quite fit it in just because of how late I discovered Elton's music properly. I mean, I obviously knew the hits, but kind of became a bigger fan of him after watching the movie. And yeah, this album is easily my favourite from him just because of the song Your Song, which is mine and my fiance's song. So yeah, that's why Elton John is at number 17. It's not because I think it's a good album. I think it's a great album. Some of you might not. Some of you may prefer Yellow Brick Road or another Elton album. But this one, for me, is the one I had to get. It is Elton John by Elton John. So it comes in at 17. Sorry for the sob story, but I kind of have to explain the backstory behind some of these to kind of explain why they're in a particular spot. But yeah, Elton John by Elton John comes in at 17. At 16. The last hip hop album of the video, because we don't get any more till next time. But this is what I'm gonna say. This album, man, it had such an influence on me. I can't even describe it. Tribe Called Quest's People's Instinctive Travels and the Paths of Rhythm. Where do I begin with this album? Luck of Lucian, I Left My Wallet in El Segundo, Bonita Applebum, Can I Kick It, Mr. Muhammad, Ham and Eggs. Great album, absolutely incredible, and one that I think deserves a place on any hip hop list. If you're a hip hop collector or a hip hop fan, you don't know this, what are you doing? Just an incredible album. You got Q-Tips, because they were always different. They loved using jazz and samples from world music, and that was kind of Q-Tip style brought into the group with Five Dog as well. Five Dog's vocals and lyrical style was also incredible, and that's why I like this album a lot. I mean, I love all of Tribe Called Quest stuff, but this is probably that album that I always listen to, I'll always pick up to listen to out of all their albums, and one that I can never escape from because I hear the songs off this album everywhere. As soon as people mention Tribe Called Quest, it's always this album. I know you can't escape it, but it's either this songs off this album or Scenario. But what a great album this turned out to be. Love it. Can't go wrong with Charcoal Quest's People's Instinctive Travels in the Paths of Rhythm, which is why it comes in at number 16. Number 15, and this album comes from my uncle. Me and my uncle had quite a close relationship. I'd go there every day after school, wait for my parents to finish work so they can come pick me up. But he always had music playing. It was always Beatles, Nat King Cole, Joe Cocker, and 60s soul, so Stevie Wonder and Otis Redding, Dock of the Bay. Yeah, my uncle loved Otis Redding. One of his favourites, and of course, Dock of the Bay has the song Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, has the song Tramp also on this album, but it's always stuck with me from that, and even when I was younger, I would always sing along to this album because this is the one I kind of remember most out of the Otis Redding albums, because my uncle was a big fan, so he'd always play this one and Beatles' Greatest Hits, the Blue Greatest Hits album, but this was the one I remember most, sticking out for me just because of how much my uncle played it and how much I kind of remember the words and walking around his house, sitting in his house singing, and we were there talking, and yeah, it would be, he'd tell me stories about music, and Otis Redding was one that he really liked. So because of that, because of my uncle, I love this album, and I really did try and put it in my top 10, but it's one that is very difficult to listen to without trying to think about, the fact that my uncle's no longer with me. But again, Dock of the Bay by Otis Redding, one I'll go to somewhat often, but still quite hard to listen to, but I always hear Sitting on the Dock of the Bay anyways, so Otis Redding's Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, or the Dock of the Bay, is at 15. At 14, and again, controversial whether you call this jazz. I call it jazz because of how it sounds, but it is jazz fusion at the end of the day. It's Herbie Hancock's Headhunters. Man, let me tell you how much this album influenced me. I had hunted this down for about 3 years, and I had seen a couple of copies, but they weren't up to the condition. They weren't in good enough condition for me to actually pick them up. But Herbie Hancock's Watermelon Man is the song that got me hooked on jazz. I will say it. It's the song that, I knew Louis Armstrong before, I knew Frank Sinatra, I knew Nat King Cole, but as far as I was into vocal jazz more. That's what got me into instrumental jazz, was Watermelon Man. And this album will forever hold that place as not just my favourite jazz album of all time, but the album that got me into jazz. Like instrumental jazz. Herbie Hancock's Headhunters. At number 14. At number 13 is the only album in this video I don't own. I think the last one on the entire list that I don't actually own on vinyl. No, it's not. There's one more. Excuse me. I have the CD, but it's packed away somewhere. It's in storage somewhere, and I can't be bothered to look through my boxes to find it. It's Linkin Park's Meteora. I know what you're thinking. Oh, Linkin Park this, Linkin Park that. I don't care what you want to say about Linkin Park. I love Linkin Park, and it's because of this album that I love Linkin Park. Songs like Faint, Breaking the Habit, From the Inside, Numb, which closes off the album, still to this day one of my favourite songs of all time. I've always loved Linkin Park, and because of this album, that sort of remained prominent to me. I discovered them in my pre-teens, and I've sort of gone on and off with them because I've either not listened to them for a while and then come back to listening to them. But if I do rediscover Linkin Park, it's always Meteora I tend to discover first. Now I listen to this album non-stop, but hey, what can I say? Meteora by Linkin Park, great album, I must say. But yeah, it comes in at number 13. Number 12. It pains me to not put this album in my top 10. It really does. But I really wish I could. But Stevie Wonder's Inner Visions is at number 12. It just falls shy, but it's an incredible album enough to where I don't mind it not being in my top 10, even though I really wanted it in there. Songs like let me read off some of the tracks on this album, and you'll see why I love it so much. Too High, Visions, Living for the City, Golden Lady, Higher Ground, and Don't You Worry About a Thing, all on this album. There's 3 more songs on this album as well, all of which are incredible, by the way. But how can you not love this album from Stevie? It really is one of his best. I mean, I love it for what it is. I can't express enough how much I love this album. Like I've said before, I really did want it higher on this list, but just couldn't quite bring myself to put it into the top 10 because obviously this has never been my favourite Stevie Wonder album. It's always been in my top 3 though, and that's why I'm not too fussed about putting it in the top 10. But because it's Stevie Wonder, he's my favourite artist of all time, I've had to put him in the list somewhere. So I had to put this album on the list somewhere, and it fell at number 12 just because of, it's the one I spin regular. Other than one more of his albums. Spoilers. Yeah, Stevie Wonder's Inner Visions comes in at number 12. Finally, at number 11, and again, a lot of people would have put this high, and this was very nearly in my top 10. But there is one album, I think, that kind of topped this one for me. So it knocked it out of the top 10, but it would have been, just so everyone's clear, it would have been in my top 10. Because again, it's an early influence. A friend of mine, back when Bluetoothing songs back and forth was a thing in school, you'd Bluetooth songs back and forth to each other. My friend Bluetoothed the entire album of this to me, and I listened to it non-stop for about 3 months. Yeah, because I liked it that much. Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction. Where do I start with this one? Welcome to the Jungle, It's So Easy, Night Train, Out to Get Me, Mr. Brownstone, Paradise City, Michelle, Sweet Child of Mine, Rocket Queen, Anything Goes, You're Crazy, Think About You, yeah. Basically, me and my friends had this running joke where this was basically the greatest hits of Guns N' Roses because their other albums weren't as good as this one, in our opinions. So we always said that this was sort of Guns N' Roses' greatest hits, in a way. But you can't go wrong, really. It's an incredible album. It really does hit hard. Yeah, there's not a song on here I don't want to skip. And like I said, back when my friend sent me this through Bluetooth, back when that was a thing. So ever since then, it's stuck with me, and it's always been one I revisit when I'm in a metal mood. This is the one I go to the most. So yeah, Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction comes in at number 11 and just misses out on the top 10. I know, it's a shame. But like I said, it only took one album to knock this out of the top 10. But yeah, Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction at number 11. So with that said and done, guys, thanks so much for tuning into the video. If you enjoyed, give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. I do upload every Wednesday and Sunday, but just in case you forget, turn on the bell notification so you get told when I upload, just in case you miss one or whatever. But yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again very soon. Peace.